Welcome to episode 53 of Your Mindset Matters. And I'm really excited for this episode, if I'm honest, because it is also coinciding with a launch that I am launching on Rewrite Your Story, the workshop, which is starting on the 19th of July for 3 days, which is going to help you rewrite the stories that you're telling yourself. So this is why I am doing today's episode, and I feel like there's going to be more to come on this, okay? Because for me, it just lights me up, right? Do you know when you find that thing that just makes you feel so good and you could talk about it for hours, right? This is my thing, okay? Anything to do with mindset, anything on helping you guys, I am in. So today we're going into the stories that you tell yourself impact the results that you are receiving, okay? And let's get clear on what I mean by the stories to start with. I basically mean your thoughts, okay? Because your thoughts have such an impact on you, okay? But these come from your mind, right? And in your mind, you have two parts to it. You have your ego side, which is your fear, and you have your true self, right? That doesn't live in fear. We have two sides to us, two parts of us. But what I think is happening is that we don't have the awareness on that, right? So what we do is we identify with them fear thoughts. We become them fear thoughts and we think that's who we are, right? But it's not. I'm here to tell you that that fear, that worry, that anxiety, that stress, that overwhelm isn't you and who you're here to be, okay? There is a true you. There is a higher self part of you who doesn't have all of that conditioning, who doesn't listen to that fear, and who knows and feels what is best for them, okay? So the stories is basically the thoughts that you are telling yourself and choosing over and over again, which is becoming your self-image, like a story of yourself that you are holding on to and believing to be you, believing about yourself. And the stories that you may be choosing may not even be your own, okay? Because from 0 to 7 years old, you were like a sponge, okay? You were taking in so much from your environment, the people around you, and taking on beliefs, right, during that time. And then beliefs and then stories that you took on during that time are now with you in something called your subconscious mind, which you think with 95% of the time. And I feel like you're going to be like, I've heard you say this before, because for me, that is like key, right? These thoughts and these stories aren't actually us. So why are we continuing? Why are you continuing to choose them? Why are you continuing to allow it to block and create resistance around who you're here to be and what it is that you're here to have, right? Those goals, those dreams, those desires that it is that you have in your heart, they're meant for you. And the only person that's getting in your way of having that is yourself. And it's probably your fearful mind, right? That ego mind that we have. Because what we do, instead of observing it and listening to it and going, okay, thank you for your opinion, but I'm going to choose this, right? Choose what empowers us, choose what serves us. We sometimes, most of the time, listen to that fear and we allow it to take over, right? 95% of the time. So what today's podcast and what my whole podcast and me and being a coach is all about is helping you move from that fear into who you're here to be, to discover yourself without that limitations, right? Let's break free and step into breaking free of your limitations from your own mind, your own thoughts, okay? Because your thoughts will then create a feeling in the body, because they'll be like, this thought is telling me this, so I'm going to feel this, right? And then that feeling and that thought can determine who we're going to be and how we're going to show up in the world, right? And that gives off our energy, which determines what you're receiving into your life, what you're receiving back. Your reality right now is a mirror of who you're being, okay? So just have a little minute to think about the life that you are living, the reality that you are living right now. Is it what you would like? is it what you would love? And if it's not, there's probably a story there and a thought, right? So stories and thoughts are basically the same thing. I just like to call it a story because there's fiction books, right? So the fiction book, the fiction story is the one that's no longer serving you, okay? We get to choose what book we're going to buy, what story, we're going to buy into. So look at your life right now. Is it what you would love to be living? Are you being the person that you love to be, right? Are you feeling happy every day, living in your joy? And if you're not, why not? It's probably because there's a story that you are telling yourself that's holding you back from allowing you to go into that. Okay? And these stories are normally lies. Okay? Because the true you doesn't live in fear. The true you that you're here to be doesn't hold themselves back because of fear. That's the ego mind tricking you into thinking that you're less than you are, you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you can't have this, you can't be that, right? That's just a story to keep you in your comfort zone. So your ego mind is kind of good as well because it's trying to keep you safe, okay? Like back in the olden days, right, years and years and years and years ago, where it was we either like fight kind of thing, remember, where our body goes into that fight mode because we do it for survival, okay? That's kind of what it's trying to keep you in. It's like, instead of it being like for survival, it's more like your comfort zone. It's like, this is stepping me out of my comfort zone. No, we need to get back in our comfort zone where it's safe. Okay, so our ego mind isn't against us, it just likes to keep us safe. And I agree with that feeling of feeling safe, but not when it's holding you back, not when you're telling yourself lies. Okay, and what I mean by these lies, these could be that you're not good enough, you're not worthy, and all of that, right, that comes up for you right now. What stories are you telling yourself, and also what lies are you buying into? Right? Because these started off as a thought. These started off as just a one-off thought. And then we chose to continue to have that thought again and again and again. And it became the story of the person that you're being, of the person that you show up as. And creates a story of what you're receiving into your life. Okay? And for this to change and to break free from this, it starts by choosing and rewriting the stories that you're telling yourself, okay? It can be a simple thing like I can and I can't. Because if you're telling yourself I can, you are right? You can. But also if you're telling yourself I can't, you're also right. So which one are you choosing on a daily basis to tell yourself, right? And this is where it goes a bit deeper, okay? Because you're probably going to be thinking like, I'm always telling myself I can. Maybe to your awareness right now, but actually when we do take a big step back, so imagine yourself taking a step back or a bird's eye view of your life and be honest with yourself. Am I actually telling myself I can and I'm receiving the results of I can, or am I receiving the results of I can't? And that's the true story that you're telling yourself, okay? Because this is the thing, right? We would love to say that we're really positive all of the time. We back ourselves, we're there for ourselves all of the time. But what happens is that's not the case, okay? Some of the time, because of them lies and them old stories which are not serving you, come up and get in the way, okay? And in the moment, you get to decide what you're going to buy into, what story you're going to choose to play out in your life, that I can or that I can't, because either way you're right. So you can start doing this in your day-to-day life right now, right? Instead of saying to yourself, oh, I can't do this, but like, do you know what, I can? Because this literally happened to me today with a little boy, and he was like, I can't do it, and was getting really upset. And I looked him in the eye and I said, I believe in you. I know you can do this. Let's tell ourselves, I can do this. He said those words so proudly out loud. He went, I can do this. And he went and did the thing, right? And I notice this, and this isn't just a one-off trial that I've done, right? I do this a lot, and I notice I say, right, let's just switch the story that you're telling yourself and say I can't to I can. Okay, so change it to I can. And most of the time that they can do it, right? It might be something that happens instantly. It might be something that takes over time, right? Because sometimes we get to try again, right? Until we get it. Because some things are going to be tricky when we start to do them, right? But we can do it. But it's about the mindset and the thoughts and the stories that you have that you're telling yourself. I've done this with my workouts, right? Where I'm like, oh, I can't do another rep. My mind is going to give up before my body. Okay, so it's about taking back control and choosing thoughts which are going to empower you and serve you. Okay, because you have a choice. This is the thing that I think that is quite not have the awareness as much or being told as much, that you do have a choice, right? In this world. And I think about this when I am looking after, for example, children, like, and they ask me why on certain things, and I'm like, do you know what? I'm not actually sure. It's just something that the whole world has sort of bought into, and we just follow it, right? We should, or we could be questioning that more, right? Why am I doing this? Why am I thinking this? Why am I feeling this? Why am I showing up like this? Children always ask that and go through that phase of asking why, right? So why? Let's do that ourselves. Let's start asking ourselves why are we telling them stories? Why are we choosing this thing that's not serving us? So what do I mean by not serving you? Okay, so how to figure out if a story isn't serving you. You're not getting the results that you would like. It doesn't make you feel good. It keeps you small. It holds you back, right? You could be feeling things such as anxiety, stress, overwhelm, self-doubt, and you feel like you're constantly chasing a certain thing, right? And it feels just draining, right? That kind of energy is probably a story there that you're telling yourself that isn't serving you. And we get to go into that and rewrite it. It can be as simple as changing the I can't into I can, or deciding in a moment that you're going to choose something differently, and they can happen instantly. Or it might be a really deep ingrained story that we have and something that's turned into a belief for you, and you get to do a little bit more work on that. That's why I have one-to-one clients, because sometimes it takes going over the same thing, digging into it and going to the root cause of it to release that story for good, okay? It's about working with on a conscious level in this physical reality of what you're thinking right now, and also on that subconscious level where you learned it, okay? That's where I love my one-to-one clients, especially because I can help you on that conscious level and subconscious level to truly go to the root and release that story, okay? But today I'm giving you things that you can work with right now to start having that awareness and start rewriting your stories. And that's what the Rewrite Your Story workshop is all about. I'm going to be going in deeper with that as well. And also in that workshop, I'm going to be doing and working with the conscious and subconscious mind. So we're going to be going with them smaller stories, that ones that we can shift quite quickly with just making a different decision. And we're also going to be working with them deeper, deep-rooted stories that you've chose to identify with, okay? Because there's kind of different levels. Different levels of the stories that you have, okay? Because if this is just a new story that you've taken on from somebody else, you can fairly change that quickly, right? But if it's one that you have been repeating over and over again, for example, mine could be for 26 years because I'm 26 years old, right? That could be a deep ingrained one that we get to go deeper on. And I have definitely noticed the impact with adding theta healings into that, which I am now qualified in. On myself, for example, is going deeper into the stories, because I've been able to let go of so much, which has felt honestly like a weight being lifted, a sigh of relief, a breath of fresh air from going into them root causes, because some I had been holding on to for years. Okay, do you know that story? You're like, oh, just not ready to let it go, right? Because for some reason your brain tricks you into thinking like it's benefiting you, right? And it is benefiting you, and there's something that you love about that story, right? I know it sounds really mad right now, because you're thinking, why would a story that not serves you, why would you love it? Okay, because your fearful mind likes how it keeps you safe, because you're gaining something from it, like a protection. Okay, so for example, like a story holding you back for going for a promotion at work, for example, that story that's holding you back is actually keeping you safe, and you're gaining not having, say, extra pressure, extra workload, people looking up to you, for example, right? You're gaining not having that, because you're telling yourself that you're not good enough to have that or be that, right? When actually your true self and the true version of you that you already are, that you get to step into and get to step into your inner power, is that you are ready for that. Okay, because you wouldn't have goals, desires and dreams that you have and that keep coming up for you that you would love if you weren't ready for it, or if it wasn't possible for you. Okay, so it's about looking at the stories that you are telling yourself, because they're impacting who you're being and what you're receiving. So what stories are you telling yourself? And it's about creating awareness around that, because we can go around this world 95% of the time as a walking computer programming, right? Not even realizing we're doing things. For example, you get in your car and you drive and you're like, how did I even get here? Like, I can't even remember my journey, right? Or learning to ride a bike. We have that. I'm 26 years old. I cannot remember the last time that I rode a bike, but I know how to ride a bike still, right? That's instilled in my brain. Right? It's the exact same with some of these stories that you are telling yourself. But first of all, we get to shine the light on them stories, create that awareness of what actually you're telling yourself and the truth. Okay? And what I mean by saying the truth is, it's about being honest, because earlier I said we'd love to be the most positive, bubbliest person who always thinks good and receives good, right? Because you are the creator of your life, your reality, the good, the bad and the indifferent. But it's about being honest with ourselves about what we're truly thinking and what we're truly feeling, with no judgment. Because I know that in my life, in certain aspects of it, I'm not where I'd love to be, because there's a story that I'm choosing that's holding me back and getting in my way. And I will be honest and real with you that sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it's a bit difficult to actually be honest with yourself about the story that you're telling yourself, and to understand why you're saying it. And that's why I personally love working and having my own healings done and my own one-to-one sessions on myself with someone else. So the stories that don't make sense to me in the moment, I can work with them on, and they can help me actually find the root cause of why I'm choosing it. And after, I'm literally like, oh my goodness, that makes so much sense. Like, I get it, why I was holding on to that. And then you get to decide in that moment of like, am I ready to let that go? Okay, because you're the one that gets to choose if you're going to rewrite your story. Choose a story which empowers you instead of not serving you, right? You get to decide that. Nobody can do that for you. Okay, it's like even in the healing sessions, nothing can be done to me, for example, the healings, the shifts in the subconscious, without my permission. So for us to truly change our lives and ourselves, it starts with us doing that. We get to decide. You get to decide to rewrite your story. You get to decide to choose a new story, to choose a different story, which is going to empower you and serve you instead of holding you back. So what stories in your life are you choosing that's holding you back, that aren't serving you? Right? What are those stories? Allow yourself to have a minute now just to think about them and bring them up. And are you ready to let them go now? Because if you are, use some of the tools that I'm using on this podcast. message me to come and rewrite your story. It is literally only £22 for the whole 3 days, and you get lifetime access and replays to the videos. So you're going to have a video each day, which is going to be coaching and healing as well. So we're working on that conscious level and subconscious level, going to the root cause of some of the stories, right? You're going to actually have the tools to help you in the moment, because I used to have really severe anxiety. It's something that I haven't actually spoken about, and my partner Harry has been saying for years, like, why are you not talking about it, kind of thing. And I think, if I'm honest, the reason I haven't spoken about it is because of the energy around it in the world, around that word anxiety and mental health and things. For me, I didn't want to it come across in a way that could offend anyone, but actually I'm sharing my story, my experience, right? I'm not saying I'm an expert, I'm sharing my experience with it. So I used to suffer really, really bad with anxiety, to the point of panic attacks, to the point of not being able to breathe, with panic attacks, with having anxious thoughts every single day. I couldn't go to the shop on my own. Well, I could have. It was just a story I was choosing in that moment, right? But I couldn't go to the shop on my own. There were so many things. And I'm going to do a post on this, but I've not done it yet. But I actually scrolled back through after a dream of a letter that I had sent to an ex, and in it I had wrote about, something like, I'm so sorry that I have this mental illness. I wish I could get rid of it if I could, or I would get rid of it if I could. I haven't got the exact thing right now in front of me, but that's something along the lines of what I said, because a lot of that relationship I was very, very anxious, honestly, about the littlest of things to the biggest of things. And when I read that and found that letter, I was like, do you know what? I have come a long way. And I'm so grateful for learning about all of this, and also being able to share this with you guys, because I now would say I don't really suffer with anxiety. I get my moments, right, where I get a little bit of a tight chest, because for me, I'm choosing to expand, grow at such a faster rate than I used to, right? So I'm obviously always coming out my comfort zone. Okay, so I'm going to feel a bit nervous, right? Because when we grow our comfort zone, like I said, your fear thoughts are going to speak louder, because they're like, whoa, this doesn't feel safe. Whoa, this doesn't feel comfortable. We need to go back, right? But I don't suffer with overthinking as much, anxiety as much, because I know that I'm the creator of my thoughts, and I also know that the universe has my back. I have such more of a sense of trust, and I'm able to rewrite the stories that I would usually have gone into anxiety, overthinking, overwhelm, and spiraling, if I'm honest, because I think that's what really happens, is we go into a thought and then we start to worry, we start to spiral, like, what if this happens, what if that happens, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And we start to plan for the worst case, right? And it gets out of control sometimes with our own mind, okay? Hence why we have panic attacks and things. But for me, it's something that I don't really suffer with as much at all anymore. Like I said to my partner after I found it, I was like, oh my goodness, like, reading this, don't you think how much I've grown, and like my anxiety has got so much better? And it all comes down to understanding myself more and understanding my thoughts more and the stories that I'm choosing. Because in the moment you have a choice, right? Your mind may tell you different, but I'm here to remind you and help you step into your power that you have a choice in that moment to choose something different. And it takes time, okay? Because this is the thing. What I've realised is a lot of people would just like a quick fix, right? Okay, give me this so I can be this, right? I love working out, but I know that it takes consistent results, consistent in my diet, as well as just working out, to have the body and maintain the body that I'd like, as well as telling myself the story that I will always be this body, that I will never be da-da-da, or I will always look like this, right? Because your mind is so powerful. Have that story too. Just a side note on that one. But it takes consistent results. And that's the thing. For example, over the years of my anxiety, it has taken consistent results every single day to check myself, to be like, okay, we can either choose the worst case scenario or we can choose the best case scenario, right? We can choose a different story, reminding myself every single moment, right, when that anxiety would come up, like, I have a choice in this. Is this serving me? Is this benefiting me? How does this make me feel? And having them panic attacks did not make me feel good. I literally have a vision right now of a time where I had a paper bag in my car. I pulled over on my journey and I called my best friend and I was like, I cannot breathe, right? Because it got that severe for me, because I was choosing to stay in there. And I would just like, if you have anxiety or you have suffered with it at points, right? Or you know someone who is, help them come into a place where they know they have a choice. Because what can happen with that is, and anxiety, they say, is mostly from living in the future, okay? Because your mind is jumping forward. To remind ourselves that we're in this moment now, that we are in control of our thoughts, our body, and taking back our power. And like I said, it has taken consistency, right? Reminding myself, because for years I chose that story. For years that was a norm. For years that was a daily habit, right? Of worrying, of overthinking. But you can choose something different. You're not here to live that life where you're constantly worrying and stressing every single day, right? You're here to live that life of ease, flow, and joy. But what stories are you choosing that doesn't allow you to step into ease, flow, and joy? And are you ready to let them go now? Are you ready to let go of the stories that no longer serve you, which are preventing you from being who you're here to be, preventing you from being and having what you're desiring, right? It all comes down to, if you think about it, our mind and the thoughts that we are choosing, which become the story that we are living, the story that we replay in our mind over and over again, and we show up as. But the definition of madness is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So are you ready to have different results? Are you ready to feel good? To show up as that version of yourself, create different results? Because it all, in my opinion, starts with the thoughts that you are having, right? It all starts with your mind, because they are your thoughts, your beliefs, then go into your feelings, which then go into your actions, right? Because you'll hear a lot of the time, like, I'm just not feeling it, so I'm not going to do it. Which is stopping your action, which is stopping the results and receiving what it is that you desire. That's why I call it like Your Mindset Matters, okay? That's why my whole business is called Your Mindset Matters. Maybe not this podcast for much longer. More on that maybe in another episode when it fully gets rebranded. But it's about looking at what you're telling yourself and what you're choosing. And there's no judgment on that when I say what you're choosing. Because for me, everything is a choice, good, bad, and indifferent. But it's about having no judgment on the choices and the thoughts that you are having. Because like I said, this might not have been you that chose it. It might have been 4-year-old you. It might have been 3-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 10-year-old you who took on that story, who took on that belief, right? Because they didn't know what to do at the time, right? Don't be hard on yourself for that, okay? That's why I say it's about no judgment. It's about having the awareness and deciding, is this a story I would like to choose? Is this a story I would like to keep? Is it benefiting me, right? That's what it's about. Is the story serving you or is it not? If it's not serving you, if it's holding you back, not making you feel good, not allowing you to be who you're here to be, your true self, then it's not serving you. Let's rewrite that. Let's start to let that go. And it starts by having that awareness, okay? Having the awareness of the stories that you're telling yourself. Simply ask the question right now, what stories am I telling myself? What do I think about myself? How do I feel about myself? Because that's going to start to give you the awareness. The questions that you ask, you receive the answers to. So ask the questions you would like the answers to and accept them with no judgment, okay? So have that awareness on them and remind yourself now, this story, I can choose something different if I would like to. Just as easy as I can and I can't. So every day I can do this. I may not be able to do it right now, but I am going to be able to do this. Start to rewrite them stories. You don't have to go from I feel absolutely awful in myself to I love every single part of myself, right? That's going to be a big jump. But what it's about is, okay, today I'm going to like myself. Today I'm going to choose to focus on what I like about myself. Because yesterday I focused on what I didn't like. So it's about taking them little steps to it becoming consistent, it becoming your new story, your new thoughts, your new feelings about yourself, okay? Because the relationship with yourself and how you think and feel about yourself determines and impacts the results that you're receiving, okay? So let's start with this. Let's start looking at the stories that we're having with ourselves and about ourselves, okay? And then you can start to shift them. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a big massive jump to I hate myself to I love myself. It can just be I'm going to be nicer to myself today. And then have that awareness during that day of when a thought comes in. You're not going to be able to stop every single thought. We have thousands and thousands and thousands of thoughts a day, but you can start, right? You can start, because once you start, literally like imagine a row of dominoes right now, a massive one. Do you know how they build them on YouTube, right? You just knock one over and all the little dominoes start to knock over, right? It has a massive impact, okay? So never underestimate the power of you choosing a new thought. Never underestimate of you rewriting one story, because it could impact all, okay? So start by choosing a different story in that moment, okay? And catch yourself. Because now we've created this awareness along it and beside it. Catch yourself. When you look in the mirror and go, oh, you look ugly. Whoa. No, I'm choosing a new story. I think you look pretty. I like my eyes. I like this. My hair looks good, right? Start to shift that focus, because where energy goes, energy flows. So it's about starting to shift it, starting to choose a different story. So instead of I don't like myself, I'm choosing to like myself. I like my hair, right? Let's start with I like my hair. I like this. It's going to be different for everyone else, right? Or for example, what you think about yourself in day-to-day life. It's like, oh, I can't do this. Well, I could do this. I can do this, right? And start to voice that in your mind or out loud. Another thing that I also love doing, right? You may be a journaler. I'm both, I'll be honest. I love a journal and I love talking out loud. But I know my best friend doesn't like journaling, okay? So that's absolutely fine. They'll talk out loud. So find what works best for you, okay? Feel into which one you enjoy most, which one gives you the most joy. For me, I've always loved having a chat with myself, okay? To the point when I was younger, people would be like, who are you talking to? And I'd be like, myself, right? Because for me, what I like doing when talking to myself is taking that thought and that story out of my mind and allowing me to listen to it. Because when you say that thought out loud, you can hear yourself, right? So for example, obviously I used to suffer with my skin, so I'm going to say, oh, your skin looks awful today. So if that was my thought, I'd look in the mirror and I'd be like, your skin looks awful today, and say it out loud. Because then you're also releasing the power that your mind has over it, and you're speaking it into existence, right? You're speaking it out loud, because then you can start to release it because you're letting it go. It came in as a thought and it's now going out, okay? So I don't like my skin today, or you look horrible with your skin today. I'm talking about myself, by the way. And then it's like, oh, that's actually not very kind, right? Because when you actually say it out loud, you're like, oh, this isn't actually very kind. This actually isn't serving me. Okay, so I can choose a different thought. I can choose a different story. Okay, may not feel great about my skin today, but I love my hair today. Okay, and then you can start to talk to it. You can start to have a conversation. And when you have a conversation, right, it takes two. Because when you let your fearful mind come out as the conversation, right? The one that's holding you back, not serving you. Your higher self can chirp up and say, hold on a second, that's not a nice story. Let's choose a story that's going to serve me and benefit me, because actually it's not about the way I look, it's about who I am, and I'm actually a great person. And then you're like, oh my God, yeah. It's about allowing that thought to come out and having a conversation. You could write it down and do it through journaling, pen and paper, right? I'm feeling this about myself. The story that I'm telling myself is this. Is this true? Is this serving me? How does this make me feel? Not great. Okay, so what could I actually tell myself? What is another true story for me? Right? Start to rewrite your story. And pep talks are great, not even just on the stories that you're telling yourself, for example, from an opinion about yourself, but also things going on in your life, right? I love to talk about things with myself. I'm like, oh, well, this just happened. Why did this happen? Okay, because I'm telling myself this story. Okay, well, is that story actually true? Is that story actually benefiting me? No, because actually there's this other way that we could see it. There's this other way that we could choose to see it. We could choose to think about it. Okay, we could actually choose to think about this way. Okay, this one feels lighter, this one feels more beneficial, this one benefits me more. I'm going to choose this story, right? Allow yourself to release these thoughts and these feelings that you're having. I was working with a client last week and I was like, is your mind going like, blah, 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 right? Imagine like scribbly lines all over your head, okay? Is your mind going like that? And she was like, yeah. I was like, okay, what do you do to release this? Right? Because if we're holding on to all of them thoughts and them stories that aren't serving us, right, we're holding on to that energy and them thoughts in our head, it's gonna be really heavy, crowded, and not make you feel good. So what are you doing to release this? Okay, what could you do to release this? Could be journaling, talking to yourself out loud, going for a walk, right? It could be doing some exercise. What way are you releasing this? And I do really recommend the pep talk or the journaling, because what it's actually doing is bringing the awareness to the stories that you're telling yourself. Yes, it's great to go for a bath and unwind, but think about the stories and things that's actually bothering you during that time, because sometimes we can just brush them into the carpet and then the carpet always bulks up, gets unraveled and it comes out, right? So make a practice that you can release the stories that you're telling yourself, right? To shine the light of them. So the process is you shine a light on the stories that you're telling yourself, and then you start to actively and consciously choose new stories, okay? And then ones that are the deep-rooted ones, that's when we go into that deeper level of asking ourselves, why? Why am I feeling like this? Right? Because sometimes you might be like, oh, I can't put my shoes on. Again, I had that example today. They were like, oh, I can't put my shoes on. I was like, you can, you did it last week. Find evidence of where you did, right? That's a really good way to rewrite your stories, finding evidence of where you actually did do it, of where you could do it. Because it's like, oh, there's evidence there that you could. Your mind's just playing tricks on you right now. Let's choose that story, right? Let's step into that. It's like stepping into different versions of ourselves, right? We have our fearful and we have our true self, our empowered self. And we're here to step into our empowered self and to stop choosing the lies that aren't serving us, the stories that aren't serving us and are holding us back from being who we're here to be, from being more ourselves and being and having the life that it is that we desire, okay? So start looking at the stories that you're telling yourself, right? To do that, look at your reality right now. Which part of your life would you love to have more, or is not where you'd like it to be, right? Look at that and then go, okay, how am I showing up? What am I thinking? What stories am I telling myself about that? Are they serving me? Okay, let's choose a new story, right? We can either shift it in the moment by just choosing a new story from saying, I can, for example, or actually no, this is the thing, da 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 da, and some stories are changed instantly. Or it might be one that allows you to go a little bit deeper, allows you to go actually into the root cause, because this one was embedded from childhood, for example. This is one that you've been choosing for years and years and years. For example, I'm not good enough, I'm not worthy, I'm always this, money-wise, I can only earn this. The man needs to earn more, right? It might not even be your belief or story. It could be an ancestral one that we've had for years that's just come through in this lifetime with us, right? That you get to end, that you get to stop, okay? So I hope this has helped you today on shining a light on actually the stories that you could be telling yourself, and that you can rewrite your stories. You don't have to be this person anymore, because it might not even be you. This is the thing. The stories that you're identifying with and telling yourself might not even be you, the true you, the person that you're here to be and the person that you truly are. It might be a mask or a fog or a curtain, however you'd like to describe it, over you that's blocking you, okay? Because we're ready to pull that curtain off, we're ready to clear the fog, okay? And be more you, and allow you to tell yourself, be yourself in those stories which empower you and serve you, okay? So if you are ready to rewrite the stories and the thoughts that you are choosing consciously or unconsciously, right? And start being more you, then come and join me in Rewrite Your Story. We are starting on the 19th of July for 3 days. It's going to be in a group where you have access to all of the live recordings and also the replays. So if you are listening to this podcast episode ages after, a week after, or whenever, you can always have access to this workshop, because for me it is so powerful, and it is the first step to starting to rewrite the stories that don't serve you. And I think it's also the first step, also the most powerful step in my opinion. So come and join me in that. You can have access to watch the lives, you can watch the replays, and you can have it months after, because you'll always have those videos to replay. So for example, you might do it live, and then in 6 months time you're like, oh, I need that again. You can go back to it because you've got lifetime access. We're going to be going all into how to rewrite the stories that are no longer serving you to ones which empower you, okay? Stories about yourself, stories about others, to allow you to be more you, okay? Move from that fearful mindset, that anxiety, overwhelm, overthinking, stress, into your true self of who you're here to be, where you back yourself, you're empowered by yourself, right? So I'm really, really excited for that. So if you'd like to join me in that, please pop me a message on Instagram @_HollyJenkinsCoach. Or if you would like to work with me on a one-to-one level, I am now doing it more personalized. I do not have where you can come in, for example, it's going to be like, right, you come in for a month, or you come in for 2, or whatever. It's completely, we have a call together, we discover what it is that you'd like to work on, and we create a personalized, tailored plan for you, right? Could be where you'd like weekly calls or monthly calls, whatever it is, it's all going to be tailored and personalized to you. So I'm really excited about that one, because for me, that's what lights me up. The lady that I go to have my skin done, who's incredible, like, for me, I went for her because it's personalized. That's what I love, and that's what I would love to give you guys, is that personalized, tailored programs to yourself, to who you are, to what you need, okay? It's all about you. So thank you so much for listening to today's episode. Start choosing the stories which are going to serve and benefit you to be more you, living the life as you, and having your desires in your reality. I'll catch you in the next episode.